When you're building shelves from plywood, you need to hide these edge plies because these little voids and blemishes here never look good. They also don't take stain or finish very well. And the edges of the top and bottom face veneers are pretty fragile. They should receive some added protection too. Well, the most durable way to hide the edges of plywood is with solid wood. And a great way to do that is with a pair of matched edge groove V-bits like these. In this video, I'll put these bits to work to give this plywood a better edge. But before we get started, let's take a closer look at these bits and what they can do. Edge V-groove bits are made in two profiles that are designed to work together. This concave bit has a bird's mouth shape to it. It cuts a beveled profile with a sharp centered edge, and it's usually the bit that cuts the solid wood edging. And this convex bit cuts a mirror opposite profile to this bit. It cuts a bird's mouth shape, and it's usually the one that you use to reshape the edge of the plywood. When both bits are dialed in correctly, the routed profiles of the solid wood and the plywood fit together like this. And you have some options for how that solid wood edge treatment can look with these bits. Here's what those are. On this top piece, you can see that I've trimmed off the wood edging flush with the edges of the plywood. So from the front, it looks like there's no edging at all. On this middle piece, I've left about 1/4 of an inch of the wood in front of the plywood, so it'll be more durable than this top option. And here on the bottom piece, I've used walnut edging on maple plywood and left it wide. If you like the look of contrasting woods, here's a way to really use the edging as a design element. Another advantage to these bits is their V-groove cutting configuration creates lots of surface area for glue. The solid wood trim in the plywood piece can create a strong glue bond. And both halves of the joint are self-aligning. They come together in a mated connection, so they're easy to clamp. Now, with all that said, let's get down to it. Let's use this piece of solid cherry lumber as the edging for this piece of cherry veneer plywood. Now, these are large router bits that remove a lot of material at a time, so if possible, use them in a router table that's equipped with a mid-size or full-size router and a fence. Let's start by routing the cherry edging piece. Here, I'm installing the concave edge V-groove bit and adjusting it until the angled cutting edges of the bit touch both corners of the cherry workpiece at the same time to center the bit on the wood's thickness. You could, of course, measure the center of the stock and adjust the bit that way, but this is a quicker way to center the bit on the wood. Now adjust the router table fence until the rim of the bit's pilot bearing is flush with the fence facings. Lock down the fence. Then close up the fence facings to minimize gaps on either side of the bit. I like to install a feather board to make sure that this workpiece will stay pressed against the fence while I route it. With that done, I can go ahead and route the pointed profile into the edge of the cherry workpiece. This is a heavy cut, so I'm feeding the lumber slowly to prevent overworking the router motor in the bit. And now it's time to route the plywood. Here I've switched to the convex bit, and I'm lining the faces of the fence up with the rim of its pilot bearing on top. Then I lock down the fence again. Now we need to set the cutting tips of this bit on the thickness of the cherry plywood. So to do that, I'm drawing a centered mark on the edge of the plywood, then adjusting the height of the bit until the cutting tips split this pencil line. With that done, I'm all set to route the edge of the plywood. This time, I've got feather boards mounted to the fence and pressing downward to keep the plywood from lifting up as I push it past the bit. This joint fits together well. The edge V-groove bits create a uniform, tight fit between the solid wood and the plywood if you do a careful job of routing. So, I can glue and clamp these parts together, then trim off the excess cherry to create the look of the edging I want. If you make a lot of plywood shelves, these edge V-groove router bits are definitely worth adding to your collection. You can see them at rockler.com or at a Rockler store near you. I'm Chris Marshall with Woodworkers Journal Magazine and Rockler, and thanks for watching.